I keep getting asked about this market. Sam, how can I buy a house right now? What's the best approach? How much do I have to pay to get the house that I want? So today we're going to talk about exactly what I'm seeing in the market right now and the types of offers that people are having to make for different types of houses. And also I want to talk to you about the mindset it takes to walk into this market and get the house that you want, but not be emotionally swayed or captivated by this process. And near the end of the video, I'm going to talk about one specific thing that if you do this one thing, it's very risky, but it gives you some of the most likely odds of getting a house in this market. And we're going to start right now. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone and I'm a real estate agent in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and I help people all over the world move to this area, Virginia Beach, and the cities around Virginia Beach, and I'd love to help people. If you have any questions about moving here, drop a comment below, or you can reach out to me. I've got my contact info in the description. Now, if you wouldn't mind, if you do love my videos, I would greatly appreciate it if you tap that like button for the YouTube algorithms. It would help my channel out a lot. If you have any questions, even as you're watching this video, comment below and ask, and I'll do whatever I can to answer those questions for you about how to navigate this market. And if you are buying in this market, hey, comment also. Mention some things that may have helped you get a house in this market too. So you keep bringing all the stories, like your friend, you know, a real estate agent, the news, anybody's talking about this market and how crazy and how active it is. And that people do say that, well, there's no way I can get a house right now. There's no way I can get a house that I want right now. I have to go so far over asking price. It's not even worth it. What's the point? A guy named Yogi Berra, a baseball player a long time ago, used to say 90% of baseball is half mental. What he's trying to say is that baseball was a mindset game, and I like to think about real estate in the same way. That it is a mindset process, especially with a market that is extremely competitive and there are a lot of buyers competing for similar houses. But your personal situation often dictates what the best strategy or plan should or shouldn't be. So I first want to encourage you that the mindset and how you walk into the process of buying right now is the most important part and will help influence the whole process moving forward. And what house you get, the types of offers you'll make, and how long it takes, everything will be determined by your mindset first. So the first thing is to take a step back. I want to make sure I understand the areas I'm looking in. I want to make sure I understand what kind of market I'm in. I want to make sure I know what kind of options I have for the types of houses I want to buy, and to make sure I'm not swayed or distracted by stories or by narratives that don't pertain to me specifically. So that being said, I want to talk to you about some statistics to show you what the market here is like right now. Right now, this is the end of March, the total amount of houses from $650,000 all the way down to zero at the time of this recording was 695 houses. 695 in the entire city of Virginia Beach. But of those 695 houses in Virginia Beach, only 128 were available. The rest were either under contract or pending in some form or fashion and not closed. That is almost 82% of the houses in Virginia Beach in that price range are under contract. So what often happens is people will look at Virginia Beach and say, well, maybe I'll shift to Chesapeake, because the school districts in Chesapeake, some of them are very comparable in demand to a lot of areas in Virginia Beach. Well, go over to Chesapeake. Now the Chesapeake total houses on the market in the same exact price range is 558 houses, and of those 558, only 101 are available. Almost the exact same percentage, 3.3% more off the market than in Virginia Beach. Same, rounding up to 82%. So what does that say? It says that the demand in these two cities are extremely high. So for every 5 houses on the market, 4 of them are under contract. Why is this happening? Well, interest rates are still low. We're talking up and around in that 3% range. I don't want to quote interest rates because I'm not a loan officer, and talk to your loan officer to find out for sure about you. But that interest rate range is what we've been bouncing around. That is consistently keeping the prices and the demand going up into the springtime. And because of these low interest rates, people are realizing I can save so much money in interest. It's still worth it for me to go hard after a house now as opposed to what it was worth a few months ago, because the interest is so much lower, as opposed to when interest rates could go back up again, and that same house at the same price now becomes hundreds of dollars more a month. For example, for a $400,000 house, raising your interest rate 0.25% is around $50 a month or so. Talk to your loan officer. These are guidelines here, but $50 a month or so in that 0.25% interest rate increase. So if rates go up 1%, we're talking about $200+ a month that's increased in your payment for the exact same sales price house. People recognize that and they're saying, I will be ready to go after a house now, knowing that I will be paying hundreds of more dollars per month if I waited and interest rates go up. So that being said, what's happening right now? End of March going into April, what am I seeing in the market right now? I want to tell a story real quick to give an illustration how even though you're in a crazy busy market, it does not mean that every house that you will see will sell for way over asking price. I've talked to a couple different people that have listed or listing houses in the same neighborhood in the southeastern section of Virginia Beach in the same price range, about $500,000. But I talked to both of them and they got two completely different experiences in the same market. Number one house got listed and that listing was awesome. It was amazing. It was like one of the best houses in that neighborhood. Well, that house, they had over 20 offers and the winning offer, there were multiple offers that had $75,000 or more over asking price, and that difference was guaranteed. Regardless of the appraisal, that number was guaranteed. Now, at the same time, like almost a few days later, another house in the same neighborhood was listed. That house got 50 showings in the first day and a half. And instead of getting 20+ offers, they got 2 offers. And the winning offer was several $1,000s over asking price. That's still higher than asking price, but not nearly the experience of the one down the street. So my point here is to say that right now, just because you're in an insane, all these crazy market, it doesn't mean that every house is gonna sell for tens of thousands over asking price. What I think is happening now is that people are being conditioned to either go after a house real hard if you like it, because you have to be real competitive with everybody else, or if you don't wanna do that, it's not worth making an offer. I think that's happening more frequently than ever because people are all prepared, they have their guns a-blazing, ready to make an offer strong if they want a house. That might lead to sometimes where you might find some houses that slip through the cracks where no one makes offers on houses that should have probably, but because they have been conditioned to be so aggressive or not aggressive at all, don't even try, some houses might not get offers that should. The stories that set the tone for the market the most are the most extreme stories. So for example, that one I told you about that went $75,000, almost $100,000 over asking price guaranteed. That was a very unique situation, and most houses, a lot of houses are not getting those kinds of offers. But they do exist. So depending on the kind of house that you like, it will strongly influence the type of offer you'll have to make to get that specific kind of house. So what am I noticing that people are offering to get their houses accepted? Well, it depends on the type of house. For example, you'll have some houses like that one I mentioned that will go way over asking price. Well, the biggest variable of a lot of the variables that are being used to get houses, one of the biggest ones is guaranteeing the amount that you're offering over the offer price as much as possible. And that could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000, upwards of $50,000 to $100,000 plus. It depends on the house. But my point is that the more in demand the house is, the greater the chance you'll have to make an offer, strong offer, and guarantee the most amount over appraisal price. Well, one of the reasons why this is happening is that I've even talked to appraisers recently. Appraisers aren't able to appraise houses as precisely now because of the lack of data, because there are fewer houses that have sold recently. So since they can't use as many recent comparable sales to get values of houses, it's very hard to specify exactly what the true market value of a price of a house is. So what have I seen recently? I've seen times where people will make offers way over asking price, guarantee tens of thousands of dollars, $30,000, $40,000+ over asking price if it doesn't appraise, and still the appraisal comes back at or higher than the amount that the over asking price offer was. I've also seen it the other way. So my point here is that the appraisals are really hard to predict. If you're gonna make an offer that's really strong, way over appraisal and guarantee it, you have to be prepared to possibly pay that difference if it does not appraise. That being said, a lot of times you don't, and sometimes if the house appraises for what you've offered, even though you guaranteed that difference if it doesn't appraise, you will not have to pay that difference. It'll just be a higher loan for you. So it's more of an insurance policy. You just don't really know if you'll need it or not. Now, why are people paying over appraisal price for houses? Well, one of the reasons is because, well, a necessity. They have to in order to get a seller to accept their offer. But from a buyer's perspective, why would I do this? Why would you do this? Think about it this way. If you're buying a house, let's say $400,000 at 3% interest, the amount of interest you're paying over the 30 years is $207,000. Now, if you bought that same exact house at 4% interest, how much of a difference would it be? You'd be paying about $80,000 more in interest for the same price house that you would be paying it at 3%. If you say, for instance, if you guaranteed $40,000 over appraisal and you had to pay it, well, if you did that, you still, over the course of the loan, if you kept it for 30 years, you'd be paying still almost $50,000 less in your mortgage than you would have if you had bought the same house, not had to pay over appraisal price, and had a 4% interest rate. What people often do is they focus on the sales price, the total dollar amount, and they think, okay, well, I don't want to pay over a certain dollar amount for a house. But what they're also not realizing is how much interest they're paying over the span of the loan. This goes back to what I always suggest is, in my opinion, the level of aggressiveness you want to be towards a house is often based on how long you plan on keeping that house for. So for example, if you had that $400,000 house, you went $40,000 over appraisal price, guaranteed, you might not want to try and sell that house next year. The chances of you selling the house next year and making money are extremely slim. But if you kept it for the duration of the loan, you'll be paying more than that $400,000, but over the life of the loan, the chances are that you would be saving money in the long term based on what the interest rates are currently. That's one of the reasons why people do pay over appraisal price, or they're willing to pay over appraisal price. And some other things are definitely, the lender is important, guys. Local lenders are super important. I mentioned this so many videos. Please get that straight early. Get it set up, talk to a local lender. In addition to that, earnest money is important. The amount of earnest money does matter. And one thing I've noticed that I cannot personally advocate for or recommend, because it's an extra level of risk, is people are starting to waive home inspections. And so again, I cannot suggest to do that. I'm just telling you what people are doing to get houses, and from the seller's perspective, taking an offer that does not have a home inspection, it's easy to do for a seller, and sometimes you can get offers that are lower than the highest offer they've gotten has been accepted because of that no inspection or waived inspection. Quick closings, guys. Being ready to close quickly is super important too, or being willing to be flexible based on what the seller's needs are. I've noticed an uptick of people that are also willing to pay the seller's closing costs too, meaning literally you have your closing costs, now the sellers are getting their closing costs paid for sometimes by the buyers too. That happens every once in a while. And one thing that I think is extremely aggressive but can beat a lot of offers in this market that I've seen is making an offer over asking price but guaranteeing that offer amount regardless of what the appraisal is. So that means if you if you found a house that was $400,000 and you offered $440,000 and you said you would pay that $440,000 regardless of what the appraisal is. So if it came in at $410,000, you'd pay $30,000 in cash. If it appraised for $390,000, you would pay $50,000 in cash. The reality there is that you are guaranteeing without a floor. So you could be paying any amount that the difference of the appraisal is and the offer price. So that sounds extremely risky, which is one of the reasons why it gives the sellers more confidence in getting the number that you're offering or that the buyers are offering. But that being said, if comps are used, comparable sales in the market, there's a chance, or a good chance, depending on the house, that if you did give that open-ended guarantee, you might not have to give a whole lot. It just might give the impression to the seller that the offer is stronger. So depending on the house, there might not be a high likelihood of that house appraising for super low. So if that's the case, you might find that giving that guarantee regardless of appraisal might be a good idea. This is, again, general disclaimer here. I'm not telling you to buy a house now. I'm not saying you have to buy a house right now. And this also translates to feelings. If you do not feel like you can manage properly the emotion of going into and being aggressive with a house, I completely understand. And if it's not time, it's not time. You don't have to buy right now. The great news about buying a house is it can be done on your time when it's best for you. I will say that if you're ready to buy right now, like I said, the mental part of it, if you're mentally prepared and you can go into this kind of a market with the preparation of knowing what you're looking for, how to make an offer, how aggressive to be, you can win in this market and win very, very well, and leave and move into this house and several years later look back and be super excited that you were aggressive for the house that you got. So I look at the analogy of the two houses in that same neighborhood in Virginia Beach. One got 20 something offers and almost $100,000 over asking price. The other got 2 offers and only 5 over asking price. My point here is that you can make different levels of strengths of offers based on the type of house that you see, depending on which house it is. And so you don't have to be ready to come guns a-blazing offering $50,000 over asking price and guaranteeing that appraisal difference for every house. There'll be a lot of houses in there that you won't have to be even close to that. The more things that you want that everybody else wants, the greater likelihood that the house that you want, you have to be very, very aggressive to get. If you have any more questions about moving to the area or living in this area, I have my contact information in the description. I love to help people relocate and just work through the process of buying and selling in this area. I love what I do, and I hope you will enjoy this process too. And I will see you on the next video.